13. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday evening. You know what time it is for. It is time for Good Questions, Bad Answers. I'm your host, Joshua Jack, and my co-host,
Tim Izzo.
And we're here to pump you up. Nah, I'm kidding. You ever watch Saturday Night Live way back in the day? And it's like, hi, I'm Hans, and I'm Franz, and we're here to pump you up. So we got a great show tonight. Of course, I say that every week, and I really do believe that tonight will be a good night. If you're watching now, if you wouldn't mind saying hello, tell us where you're watching from. Much appreciated. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to pop in and say hello, or even ask your questions or comments or whatever. So the whole point of this show, for those of you that are new, the whole point of the show is to ask questions and have a good conversation. And hopefully we come away with a better understanding, or maybe something we didn't think about before. I have to apologize. This is actually episode 13, not 12. I guess I just had a mind misfire there, and I typed 12 instead. So you are part of number 13. So we appreciate you spending your time with us. If you're watching this in the future on YouTube, thank you for spending your time. And if you're listening to us on podcast in the future, again, thank you for... for I don't want to say wasting your time with us, but thank you for investing your time with us. But so Tim, how's your week going?
It's been pretty good. I feel like it's been productive with reaching out to new suppliers, and been getting a lot of them coming back to me. I mean, it's a process, but I just felt like it was just one of those weeks where I got a lot more responses. I'm not sure why, but
how many different suppliers do you hit a day, or you contact a day? And like, okay, so I'm trying to think, the amount of suppliers you reach out to, what are the percentages of it being new suppliers you've never contacted, and old suppliers that you've never, or that you already have a relationship with, or even though you're not working with them yet?
Yeah.
That's
a good question. I'd probably say I probably talked to about, well, there's, I have the suppliers that I already order from, and I talk to them fairly often, probably weekly. And then I have new suppliers that I reach out to, which I try to reach out to about like 7 to 10 a day of new ones. And a lot of them, they don't get back to you. They don't answer their phones or whatever. It takes multiple times to get their attention. And then a lot of times that is like, I'm also calling back other companies that I've called recently that I'm trying to get in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably make about 14 calls a day, between, actually it's probably 7 and 14. I try to go for about 7 to 10 new suppliers a day. And I try to just keep up with some of the old ones as well.
So if you're doing it 10 to 14 times a day, what is your, if you don't mind sharing with us,
Sure.
What is your spiel? Like, hey, I'm Tim Izzo, and this is what I'm doing. And I mean, like, because cold calling people's tough. I mean, but eventually you get to the point where you have like your 15-second thing you say. I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, but in my experience, in my past, when I've done other things, you get to the point where it's just like, this is what I say. This is the topics I hit. Do you have something like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I start off with my name, that I'm the CEO of my company. I explain a little bit about what I do, that I buy brand name products and resell them. I also do wholesale from time to time. And I actually, for the most part, I end up talking to front desk people, especially when I'm cold calling. And
Mm-hmm.
you almost never get a representative who's going to open the account with you. It's almost always a front desk person or someone to redirect you, an operator.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to tell them what I do, and when I do finally get somebody on the phone after being directed a few times or whatever, I just kind of talk about what I do with my business, how I go about it, and I try to also offer what I can do for other business. A lot of suppliers don't know how to work with e-commerce people because they just haven't,
Right.
and there's even some that are just kind of stuck in the old ways of doing things, and so they're hesitant about it. So I like to provide value and explain what I can do for them, and by working with me, there's the opportunity for them to onboard other e-commerce sellers, more easily as well, because they've worked with me, and I'm open to them, to helping them figure out how to work with me so that when they do come across other sellers, they can fast track the process and make it easier. And another thing that I'll tell them is that I've straight up seen companies, not just from me, but other companies that I've worked with, they will have like a 10 to 30% increase in revenue just by working with e-commerce people, because we could sell high volume more than most brick and mortars, unless they're like a supermarket or something like, Walmart.
Right.
But we could sell high volume, which they might not get from their usual customers.
Yeah,
And
that makes
so
sense.
we can grow their business, and we streamline it so much more easily than I think they're used to.
Okay.
Um,
well, my next question would be this: the
Yeah.
gatekeep. So the people that you contact, obviously we call these people gatekeepers, right?
Yes.
There's the first person you talk to. And is there something that you have found that has helped you get past the gatekeeper faster?
Oh yeah, definitely. Kill them with kindness.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because if you just ask them how their day is, how they're doing, thank them for, them directing you to the call, appreciating any kind of helpful little facts or tidbits that they might give you to help you with who they're going to direct you to, whether it's a name of somebody or whatever. Just if you're really nice to them, they're not used to that for whatever reason. I would think that's like standard in the industry, that you want to make a relationship and be kind.
You would think,
but yeah, there's so many people out there that are just strictly business. They're there to be like, all right, I want to buy something, and you're like, well, hey, how are you? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, but so they appreciate somebody who gives them a little bit more of a kindness and kind of time of day, rather than just kind of cut to the chase. Let's get this going. Let's talk money. And I think that's really helped me a lot. They don't expect that.
No, that's true. Have you ever reached out afterwards and said thanks, like through email or anything like that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
I love to do that. It's just, and I've appreciated it in my life when somebody goes the extra mile. I'm like, I didn't do anything for that person, but the fact that they were like, thank you, like, this was so helpful, or, I just really appreciate your kindness today. Like, something that simple, and that just feels good. So I try to give it back out to other people. And it kind of gives you a leg up. You're different from the other people out there, and they'll remember you. And if you think about their position, they have to get on a call and deal with people bombarding them, with like, hey, I want to order this, I want to do that. So just a little break in their day of somebody who just wants to be kind or whatever is huge. And they'll remember that person. And when you call that number, or you call their number, and they see your number pull up on caller ID, they're excited to talk to you, because they're not dreading it.
That's true. Well, that's true, because when you're dealing with people on the phone and you just don't know how. Yeah, exactly. It's the unknown, and then when they, when someone's actually friendly, especially when you're dealing in a sea of unfriendliness.
Yep.
All right. First up, Justin says, "Hey guys,
hey,
Justin, thank you so much for spending your time with us." Justin's the loyalist fan that I know.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and Justin, seriously, we really appreciate you being here, and the comments that you put forth. Steve says, "Hi, Josh. Hey, Steve, man, glad you're here." And Lisa says, "Hi, guys." Hi.
I love that picture. There's my son.
That's a great photo.
I don't know how she got him to do that too. That's great.
That's pretty good. Well, I'm actually kind of glad that you answered that way. I didn't expect. I mean, we obviously didn't pre-script that, but that kind of goes into our topic tonight.
It really did. That was awesome.
So it was actually fortuitous. So tonight we're going to try to tackle the question. And here again, we're going to talk about this question as well as any other questions that you may have, or if you want to talk about it, be sure to use the comments and we will talk about whatever you want to talk about, because remember, this show is about engagement. This show is about, us having a conversation about whatever. However, I really don't want to go into politics, because Lord knows everybody has enough of that. This is more for entertainment. Yeah. And it's one thing to gloss over things, but it's quite another to get really deep into it. But so anyway, we're going to cover. Totally lost my train of thought. What makes a good relationship work? So, and by the way, if you are watching now and you have some answers, what do you think makes a good relationship?
I think there's a lot of answers. There's a lot of scenarios where something is super effective, and I've got a few examples too.
Yeah. So, the best thing that I ever learned, well, first off, I think to make a good relationship work, you have to, and this is just, coming from my experience and things that I've learned in life, is you have to be fair,
Yeah.
you have to be open,
Yes.
and you also have to realize that, especially when it comes to personal relationships, and the thing is whether it be a business relationship or a personal relationship, it has to obviously be fair, but especially in a personal relationship, you have to realize, and I heard it best, and I think it was, I forget where I got this from, but you have to realize that everything that is done in your relationship is done with the best intentions.
Mm.
And when you think about that, like, if I know my wife, or is doing things out of the best intentions for us or for me, it changes the perspective of whatever the action is, whether I disagree with it, or whether I don't agree with her assessment, or she doesn't agree with mine. But down deep in our relationship, we know that we have nothing but the utmost best intentions for us both.
And that
And
totally changes the outcome of a mistake. Like when a
right.
mistake happens, you understand that, it wasn't on purpose, and so yeah, that totally changes so
Well,
many things.
and
Good
then
point.
also when, here again, Lord knows I've said some things that didn't come out the way I meant. And same
Yep.
thing with her too, I'm sure. I don't know if she's watching. She probably is,
Right.
but I mean, but I always know that there's the best intention there, and then when I know that, I know where when I know where it's coming from, and that's the thing that I fall back to. That's just, I don't think about it, because I know,
Yeah.
and see, I don't try to put too much into it, or whatever. Now, there's other, I'm sure there's other people out there with different relationships, and they all have different experiences. But at least with my relationship, that's how we do things, and it works really well. There was also something else I came across early in life, and this, I think, is gold. I got this from, and here again, guys, if you guys want to hop in on the conversation, be sure to use the comments. Let me put the banners up. Ask some questions, get some okay answers, or just say hello. Don't take advice. Hey, don't take our advice seriously. Remember. And if you're in a relationship and you want to know if it's going to work or not, remember, we do have the magic 8 ball to let us know if your relationship or whatever's going to work. So
That is great.
I'm not even gonna ask.
Yeah, right. I don't even want to know what that thing is gonna think.
Yeah. So Chris says this: listen to
Ooh.
understand and not to just reply.
Whew, that is a huge one.
I've heard it said this before. There's a reason why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We need to listen twice as much as we need to talk. The best thing I ever learned in life, and I learned this as a young Marine when I was overseas, is I read a book called The Celestine Prophecy. Now, it's a new age book, and it's not, it's kind of out there, but there was a perspective in there that really kind of made me look at relationships and how relationships work, right? So, and it equated relationships to energy. So, Tim, you and I, if we got in an argument and we weren't friends, and you made a point, you would feel immediately good about it, right? Like, I gotcha. Yeah. But on the same token, if I made a point and you knew I gotcha, you would feel immediately bad, right? It's like, oh man, you got me. Well, if since we are made of energy, and we are, I mean, there's energy, there's we eat stuff to maintain our energy, and there's emotions, there's vibrations of emotions, and I'm not trying to get too far out there or whatever, but this is what I believe. Relationships are the same way. We give each other energy.
Yeah.
And when 2 people meet for the first time, you go through that puppy love stage, right? You go through that whole, like, oh, da da da, oh, this. she's the best thing since sliced bread or whatever, but it's true. And there is a stage where, you're giving each other free love, you're giving each other free energy. And it's just like, oh man, you can't wait to, it's almost like it's almost like a drug,
Mm.
but over time, just like any drug or just like any experience or just, you need more of it to maintain that fix. And then what happens is someone doesn't give enough. Well, and if you're not aware of this, what are you going to do to get that, to maintain that level of attention or whatever? You're going to steal. So it goes from, you're giving me free energy, and then, if I'm not feeling great enough, well, guess what? Now I'm gonna take it from you. And then what happens? Well, whenever you get something stolen from you, you start clenching up and you start stealing back.
Yep.
And so then so then the relationship goes from puppy love to staleness, and then a downward spiral until eventually you can't even be in the same room with that person because they just drain you dry energy wise. And there's people out there that they are literally modern day vampires. Like there's been people I have been around in the past that, and not just relationship wise, but also just friendships, just friend relationships, just regular people, regular relationships, where they you can just feel them sucking the energy out of your life. And you got to be careful about that. And the best way to, overcome that, and especially when you're getting into a relationship, is to be aware of that, to be aware of that experience, or to be aware of this phenomenon. And that has served me very well over the past 20 years. Ever since I learned that, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. It makes a lot of sense. And so what are your thoughts? Tell me, Tim, what'd you come across?
Wow. That was a lot of good stuff, though.
I know that was pretty deep.
One of the things I actually did kind of a quick search, because I had my own thoughts of what I was gonna say, and I did kind of a quick search to see if there's things I left out or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I left out, and I'm really just disappointed in myself that I left out, was self-love. I think that if you can't love yourself, it's just like if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of somebody else? You're going to deplete yourself so quickly that you can't, even if your intentions are there. So I think that when you can learn to love yourself, it makes things a lot easier. You can kind of get over certain things about yourself that may create a quality that is life-sucking out of the other partner. Or a friend or whatever it is. So if you could learn to love yourself, that's huge.
That is huge.
Go ahead.
No.
Right?
Well,
I was so disappointed I didn't think of that. I was like, that is kind of like almost step one,
Well, no, it's true, because there's some people that are codependent or whatever, or their day requires or they can't have a good day unless someone makes it a good day for them. Yep. And that's kind of a drag on a relationship, because it's a codependent thing. In fact, Eric Rios, he was on our show a few weeks ago. He wrote a book on marriage, and in that, and I tend to agree, when it comes to relationships, you have control over how you respond. You have control over what you focus on. And it's funny because a lot of relationships and a lot of things out there, tend to go the way of self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah.
Right?
So true.
So, when you get into a relationship and you bring your baggage from your past relationship into this new one, and, let's say, you're in a relationship where the other person cheated on you. Well, you go into this next relationship and you think, well, this person may cheat on me. So you start treating them like they have. Well, eventually they will, because what's the point? You're already treating them like it. So they're going to respond in kind. But whatever you focus on, and then, but if you focus on good relationships or good, and here again, I get it. Some relationships are tough, and sometimes you get into, especially if you're married, sometimes it's really tough to maintain that type of thing. But when you take care of yourself first, kind of like what you're saying, and you start focusing on, well, what makes me happy? Not in a and not in a flippant screw everyone else type
Yeah.
of way, but it's like, if someone says something untoward you in your relationship, well, how are you going to respond to that? Is that going to ruin your day, or are you going to have a good day anyway? Because when you have a good day anyway, well, eventually the other person realizes, well, that didn't get the response I wanted. Until so then eventually they start kind of coming into. So if you take care of yourself first, everything else kind of, in my experience, everything else kind of falls into place too.
Absolutely.
But there are some crazy people out there that will never return. So I mean, I'm just a disclaimer. Remember, guys, these are bad answers. So I mean, at least that's my thought on it. But no, you're absolutely right there. You got to take care of yourself, and you also got to be aware of a lot of different things.
Absolutely. I've got respect and trust, which I feel like they're kind of, everybody understands that. Openness. I think that openness, communication, and vulnerability all go together.
Right.
And I think those are huge, especially vulnerability. You have to admit sometimes that you're wrong, or that sometimes, even if it's something that you feel is right, it may not be the best thing for the greater good of the relationship. I can't think of a specific example right now, and I wish I could, because I feel like that needs one. But there's times that you have to kind of, and this kind of comes to another thing that you have to let go. You know what I mean? There's sometimes even being right is just not worth it.
Right.
And
Choose your
it's kind of
battles.
like, taking care of yourself. Just, know that what you feel is your opinion, whether it's right or not. And, if it's going to ruin the other person's day, or do something that was going to hurt them negatively, then don't do it.
Right.
So I think that vulnerability is huge, and obviously communication is always huge, and being open, open to the fact that you might not be right, or you might need to change something that you do, because in that like moment, you might feel like, how does changing that fix anything? But you won't know until it happens what you can unlock.
Right.
And that's been, a huge thing for me, is just being open to the fact that maybe, my way is not working. And when you do that, and then you get the response from the other person who actually feels that you're participating in what they feel that you need to participate in, or whatever it is, it changes the relationship for the better. It really does.
Yeah.
Another thing, or unless you want to chime in on that.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, open communication is great, because miscommunication,
Yeah.
it's like, and then sometimes you can even be thinking that you're talking about the same thing, when in fact you
Yeah.
might not be talking about the same thing at all. And that's why you got to be really, in my experience, you got to be really aware of what is actually being said and where it's coming from. Because like I said, if you're just slightly off, I mean, if you're both just slightly off, just a little bit, you're going to be off target, like way
Yeah.
off target. You and the other person. But yeah, you're right. You're right. You have to be vulnerable, and you have to be open to being. Yeah, you're right. You're right, man.
Thank you.
We're
Thank you. That's all I want. That's the end of
yeah.
this episode.
We're just going through a show of self congratulations. So,
Another
guys,
thing. Oh, go ahead.
for those of you watching, what do you guys think? I mean, what are your
Yeah, I
thoughts?
would love to hear some feedback.
Be sure to, and if you want to hop on here and if you want to hop on with us and actually be on the show, click on that link and we'll we can
Thank
chat.
you, Justin.
Yeah. Justin says you're right. You're right. And Tim, when you're right, you're right.
Hey.
Anyway, what else were you gonna say? You were gonna say something else?
Passion and attention, I think, go together. You
Mhm.
need to have something that drives you guys together,
Right.
and you guys both need to feel attention, whether it's even just a friendship. You know what I mean? And there's got to
Well,
be something.
I'm sorry. I don't continue
No, I
on.
don't. Please.
Oh.
No, I've kind of just that. Yeah, you go ahead.
Well, I had a friend of mine. In fact, I've known this guy since I was a kid, and his dad, he was like a second dad to me. He passed away, but a couple years ago, I interviewed him about, hey, well, what makes a relationship work? And he said,
That's awesome. You got it up.
yeah, I'm looking at it now. It was when I was doing. I don't know if I ever told you about a human experience moment. It's what I
Yeah.
interviewed people. Well, I had the chance to interview him, and he, and I was asking him, well, what makes your relationship work? And he said this, Mr. Jatho. He said this. I think as a man, you're taught as a young man to stand tall, do what's right, stand your ground. But when you move into a relationship with a woman, that doesn't work. That doesn't all the time work. It's
Yeah.
not conducive to a good relationship. You have to be more easy to bend, more like not like a willow so much, but just give just a little bit. So if you give a little bit and your partner gives a little bit and you take time and you discuss things, it comes natural. You grow closer and closer together, and then pretty soon you'll both be swaying in the same direction from the same wind. And I thought that was so
Yeah.
eloquently said.
Beautiful.
And I've seen that with my wife, and it's taken us a long time to we've been together 10 years, 10, 11 years now. And actually we've been together since 2006, and we got married in 2009.
Oh.
So we've been together a while, but it wasn't. It's been a good relationship, but we've had our things that we've had to work through, and I'm not going to say it's all hunky dory. We've been through some things together, and but it's a good relationship because now it's to the point where we'll finish each other's sentences, we'll finish each other's thoughts, we'll see the same things at the same time, and we'll comment on it at the same time. I mean, it's and that's what's amazing about 13 years. She lets me know right away. She also says, be intentional and aware your actions and words can affect others around you. And yep, got to be flexible. And that's so true. You got to be open to that. But like, but going back to what Mr. Jatho said about swaying together, I have seen that in my own relationship, and it wasn't overnight. I mean, after a few years of being together, you just get to the point where you're just like, oh, you just start thinking together. And now I can't imagine. I don't want to think about anything different. I'm so grateful for the relationship I do have, because man, it would not be good without her. But yeah, so this might be a shorter episode. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I've got a few more things.
Okay, go ahead.
Ability to solve problems. That was another one that I skimmed over and I didn't think about. I think that's a huge one. If you can solve problems together, then it kind of unifies you.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is that kind of goes with it is support and to be able to provide. So I think like support more like emotionally, but provide more physically. And because I mean, you can have, I mean, there's exceptions. Like you can have an agreement that this is how you financially want. You guys just, don't care about money or whatever.
Right.
But there's a lot of times that if you're not able to provide financially, that causes a huge strain on the relationship. And so I think that is a big thing that a lot of people don't.
In the Bible, it does talk about being unequally yoked, and what that means is when in the old days when you had a wagon and you had an oxen driven or a horse driven, if you had one that was really strong with something that was really weak, it would they would both go their own way and you wouldn't get very far. And the same thing happens with relationships. I mean, there has to be some common ground of a common thing that you're working towards, right? Like, and what you said is true. If you have two different financial goals, where you need to spend some time talking about that, and
absolutely,
and try to figure out some common strategies to work on. And that's what's so cool about. And here again, the reason why I keep bringing up my wife, because that's the examples I got. But
they're good examples.
Yeah, but it's not just financial or other things. It's also hobbies. We both like doing a lot of the same things, which is great because
that brings me to my next one.
Oh, go ahead.
Congruency.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that you kind of have to have, and it kind of goes with the same thing with the support kind of thing. You kind of have to have similar views on how you see life, being. And it's like, are you going to be, rich, poor? Do you care about money? How often do you guys want to spend time together? Certain things. Do you have certain things in common you can go do together? That kind of congruency, I think, is huge. And this kind of goes with the last one that I had that's kind of in a roundabout way of congruency, but surviving an external trauma or hardship together. And I think that's one of those ones that kind of falls outside of the box. It's one of those things that like where relationships that shouldn't happen is that they go through some sort of trauma either together or they had it in the past, like either abusive parents, and that's the thing that they can share together, and they know that they don't want that in their future for their kids or themselves. It's just seeing so many people, and even if it's not, complete opposites who shouldn't be together, just
Yeah.
being in a relationship for, like you said, for a period of time through those ups and downs, that surviving those tough times has unified you guys and created a past experience that you guys can relate to, that like we went through that, so it makes all the other problems seem a lot smaller, because if you can go through that, you could do it again.
Right. Shared experiences, shared victories, shared defeats too.
Yeah.
It helps build that. So yeah, that's pretty good.
And a lot of these actually, apply to all relationships. I mean, I go through a lot of this stuff with even my suppliers.
Right.
There's so many times I get on a phone and they'll talk about something that I'm congruent on, that I'm like, oh man, like I'm so glad you brought that up, and that you understand how things are changing, and you're not stuck in the past, where now it's kind of tougher to do business because there's a lot of people who are stuck in the past, and unfortunately it's hurting their business. And so when I find somebody else who's on the path that I'm on, of embracing e-commerce, that's huge, and I get to talk to them about that. And so there's just a lot of this stuff is good general relationship rules of anything, whether it's a friendship,
Well, that's true.
business relationship, or
And then
marriage.
and that kind of goes back to like also building relationships based off of common ground or common understanding too. Like why are Marines, for the most part, why do they get along with one another? Well, because they shared some hellish experience that they can see in someone else.
Yep.
And that kind of builds a common ground to which you can build a relationship on. Or like CrossFit, right? Like there's a lot of people I go work out with, and it's shared misery. So you're going through that experience together, and there's a common ground where you build these relationships with these people that so it's just what makes a good relationship work. Well, there's a lot of things that make it work, and there's a lot of things that help build that kind of relationship. So it's neat, the whole concept. And then human behavior too. Human behavior is really interesting too, because when you start throwing that in the mix, like what do people really want, and sometimes people don't know what they want.
That's a lot of the time I find.
They don't know what they want in their lives, and they don't know what they want in their relationship, and that can be a big issue too, because if you don't know what you really because a lot of people out there they think they want a relationship, but they really don't, or they or vice versa, like they want a relationship, but they don't realize that they do, but they're all over the place, so they keep on self-sabotaging or self-limiting beliefs, or kind of going back to that self-fulfilling prophecy of the baggage that you bring with you into the next relationship. If you have something that it's you've been burned once, so therefore it kind of goes back to that self-fulfilling prophecy of whatever. So and you got to treat everybody individually. Like you got to whatever you did in the past doesn't mean that this is going to be the same way.
Yep,
And so don't
absolutely.
react that way.
Well, I think that was some good points you brought up, and I think that a lot of people are they find dependence on the other person, and I think part of it is kind of like we socially accept that
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to do, and unfortunately there's not a lot of social acceptance of self-love, and I still think that needs to go first.
Justin asks, you mentioned the toddler syndrome before. What exactly is that? I
don't know.
I don't think I've ever said toddler syndrome. Was it maybe something else? I'm
Toddler syndrome.
trying to think.
Me too.
Well, he'll pop in there if he can clarify a little bit. I'm not really Syndrome. I don't remember even saying syndrome before. Well, there's codependency relationships. There's teacher student relationships, and I don't mean that as in
Dating.
date. Well, no. Yes, but no. I mean, there's relationships out there where you have the mature and the immature, and
I see what you're saying.
And it kind of goes to that's something that kind of, I don't know much about that, but I do know that's another issue. I mean, you got codependency, then you got these other types of relationships out there where someone's always they're not equal in the relationship. One is more dominant than the other person, and the other so you have a sun or an earth, and the other person is kind of like the moon that kind of circles around that, and they're not equal. And that's kind of a dangerous. It was a while ago. So like Justin brought up
episode, or
so Justin brought up, you mentioned the toddler syndrome and in relationships, and we mentioned it a while ago. I don't remember ever saying.
I don't either.
Like toddler's not like a something I normally say. So I would remember saying something like that. So I can't remember. Well, I tell you what, if we don't cover it tonight, or we can't figure it out tonight, we will cover it again in the future episode. Yeah. But I can't think of one of my first Facebook lives.
So it could have been one of your coaching
maybe
quotes or something.
Toddler syndrome. You know what? Let me do a Google search. Let's see what
I'm hooked on this. What is the toddler syndrome?
Yeah, toddler syndrome. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't remember saying that. I mean, if I did, I was glossing over, and maybe it was something else I was meaning. Sounds like. Okay, so Marcel says, sounds like it would be one taking on all the responsibilities while doing everything for the other party. So kind of like a parent-kid relationship. So, yeah, I mean, there's that out there, too. Well, I don't know about that. So.
I know I want to know more, but I don't know how to know more.
I'll have to go through the archives and see.
You got to figure that out.
I remember, like a lot of the first Facebook Lives I did, I was going over personal development. Like, I was going through the 15 invaluable law, or the 15 laws of personal growth by John Maxwell. Good stuff. And I think it went. I think it went along with. Okay, so Justin says, I think it went along with, you don't always have to be right. Man, I'm gonna have to go through the archive now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go figure this out. So. But you're right. You don't always have to be right. You always have to figure out, like, what's the greater good here. Now, saying that, sometimes you do need to be right, depending on what it is. I mean, there's certain. It kind of goes back to that unequally yoked, or that yoked, or whatever. There are certain principles that are congruent to you, and if you try to change who you are, it's just not going to work. However, on the same, going down that path, there still needs to be, like, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Because there's, it's kind of like going back to picking and choosing the battles that you want to fight. Does it really matter? Is this going to change the world one way or another, depending on how you answer? Well, no. So it doesn't matter. So, it doesn't matter if you're right or they're right, or you're wrong or they're wrong. You work together, but you kind of get over it. Now, but then there's other principles like, open relationships. Not going to happen. Or, whatever. Like, there's certain there's certain principles that are just like, no, I'm not doing that. No, and I'm not. That's not from personal experience, by the way. I'm just using that as an example. But now I'm getting all like because I know my wife is watching this, and now I'm getting all that's funny. She says this: you have to pick your battles, in the grand schemes, does it really matter? And it's true. Certain things do matter, and then other things don't, and you got to know where to. You got to know where to draw that line in order to make a relationship work. What is the end goal of the relationship? Well, it's to if you're going to say something that's going to hurt someone's feeling, well, why say it?
Yeah. Or why are you in a relationship with a person that you want to say something like that to?
Right. I mean, it's one thing if you get these momentarily like, oh, you're really angry, but that's where you're like, okay, what's the what is the whole point of this conversation that we're having? Is it to fix a problem, or is it to lay blame, or are we trying to find a solution here, or are we just chasing our tails? Because there's two different outcomes that you're going to get if you're actually talking to fix things. Well, you're going to have you're going to have it's okay, no one's going to judge us. But anywho,
yeah, the ability to solve problems is huge, and then the ability to forgive and forget is huge.
That is true, man. Because no one likes to be.
Don't hold grudges. If you're gonna hold it, then it's like, why are you with that person if you're that upset with them? You know what I mean? It's just you're poisoning the relationship by holding.
Well, on. I mean, there are certain things that happen, and I can understand where people.
Yeah, they might not be acceptable.
Right. Well, and then I can also see where it takes time to, it takes a long time to develop trust, and it only takes a moment to destroy it. Yep. And if you're trying to work through that and get things better, well, I understand where there might be some times where it takes a little bit more time to build that back up. Don't speak in anger because you'll regret it. Boy, that's true.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Marcel says that.
That's amazing. Like, you could go from when you're angry and you knew what you were gonna say, but if you didn't say it, or even if you did say it, and you go back like an hour later, or whenever you finally calm down and you think about what you were going to say, you're like, whoa, like,
yeah,
I was out of line. Like, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even matter anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, why would I even have thrown that out there? And so, yeah, just don't do it. If you're angry, don't do it.
Nuclear option.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I feel it is every time. It's like
mutual destruction. Yeah. Now, but here again, there are some times where you do need to hold your ground, depending on what it is. I'm not saying that you should be passive all the time, but there's also times where and that's where a good relationship is where your boundaries, but you also work together to stay within those boundaries. If that makes any sense. So
it's amazing that every single one of these is congruent with like a business relationship. There's not one that I can look in this list and be like, that's only for dating relationship. It's just it blows my mind.
Well, I mean, obviously in today's world, there's a lot of things that are going on, but it all boils down to this, and that's the golden rule. Treat others as you would have you be treated. Or like treat others like you want to be treated. Yep. If you don't want to be, don't treat others like you. Don't be a jerk.
The only problem with that rule is some people want to be treated poorly, so they dish it out.
That's true. But you can't control.
I love that.
You can't control them. You can only control you.
Exactly.
Okay. Marcel says this: I hate to see people always talking bad about their partners to other people, especially on social media. Resolution should take place privately. Man, that is fantastic. That's so true. In the military, or especially when it comes to leadership, one thing I always learned was praise in public, punish in private. And that not only works in leadership, that works in relationships too. Don't air your dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Because it just makes you look silly.
It really does. There's no good that comes from that.
I mean, especially when you go right back to it, and then like, didn't just last week they had a problem? This.
Yep.
Yeah. Whatever. And then she agrees with you. Tim is right. Tim is right. This on this episode.
I've been right a lot tonight. I'm liking this.
Yeah. Marcel says absolutely, Tim. It holds true in any type of relationship. That's so true. All right. Well, I I don't know how much to belabor this. I think it was a good show tonight. Unless you have anything else, or if anybody else is watching this.
I think it was great too. I feel like I got out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered some important things. If you're watching this now and you have a question that you would like to ask, or you'd like to have something we could talk about real quick, go ahead and pop it in the comments. We'll give a couple 30 seconds or so, and then if we don't, well, then we will call it a night and we'll do something next weekend. And Marcel says it makes you look like a little whiner.
That's how you spell that. Okay.
Yeah. For those listening on podcast, she wrote something else, but this is a PG-ish show. So, but she censored herself, so that's pretty good. No, but anyway.
Yeah, I think this was pretty good. I wish there was more to talk about, but I feel like we covered kind of everything.
Well, I mean, sometimes topics they're about this wide, but this deep. Where other topics they're about this deep but this wide. So, these are one of these topics. This is one of those topics which is an important topic, but after you hit it, you kind of hit it. It's like, okay, well, now I'm done.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna call it a night. We appreciate you watching. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, be sure to say something in the comments. If you know someone that this might help, be sure to share it with them. Either once it's on YouTube podcast, or either or tag them and have them on the page. If you're not on our Good Questions Bad Answers Facebook page, be sure to go like it there. That's where you can come and participate on this show every Tuesday night at 6:30 Central Standard Time. And as always, if you have a topic or a question that you would like answered personally, you can always email us at goodquestionsbadanswers@gmail.com, and we will try to answer as best as possible. But remember, there are only bad answers here. So, but every once in a while, we try to come through with something good. Until then, we will see you guys next Tuesday. I hope you have a great 4th of July. Oh, 4th of July weekend is this weekend.
Yes, it is.
Be careful.
Yeah, please be careful.
There's a lot of craziness out there, and we want to see you here next week, safe and sound. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.